there's a moment most people never notice. A moment before the reaction, before the anger, before the explanation you didn't need to give. In that moment, something subtle happens. Control changes hands, not through force, not through intelligence, but through emotion. The world quietly favors those who do not react. Look closely at history, power, money, influence. None of it flows toward the loud, the offended, or the emotionally exposed. It moves toward the calm observer, the one who pauses, the one who doesn't flinch when provoked. Emotionally reactive people believe they are expressing authenticity. In reality, they are broadcasting leverage. Every visible reaction becomes data. Every burst of anger becomes a handle. Every attempt to defend yourself becomes an invitation for manipulation. The most controlled people in the room rarely raise their voice. They rarely explain themselves. They rarely look rushed to respond. And that is exactly why they win. This video isn't about suppressing emotion. It's about seeing the trap emotion creates when it runs unchecked. Because once someone can predict your emotional response, they no longer need to overpower you. They only need to press the right psychological button, and you will move exactly where they want. The uncomfortable truth is this: most people are not controlled by systems, governments, or circumstances. They are controlled by their own reactivity. And the moment you stop reacting automatically, something changes. People hesitate around you. Provocations lose their effect. Psychological games collapse before they begin. That's when real freedom starts. Not loud freedom, not traumatic freedom, but quiet, immovable strength. Before we go deeper, take a second and subscribe, not as a habit, but as a signal. This channel isn't for motivation. It's for those who want psychological clarity, emotional sovereignty, and quiet power in a noisy world. Now stay with me, because in the next chapter, you'll see why emotional reactivity is the most reliable control mechanism ever created, and why almost everyone willingly hands it over without realizing it. Most people believe control comes from intelligence, strength, or authority. Jung would quietly disagree. Control begins where emotion overrides awareness. The emotionally reactive mind is predictable, steerable, and easy to trap. This chapter is not about judging emotion. It is about understanding how unexamined reactions become invisible levers others pull without effort. When you react automatically, you surrender authorship of your inner world. And whoever writes your inner script controls your outer behavior. The reactive person lives in stimulus and response. Something happens, and immediately the body tightens, the mind narrates, and identity rushes in to defend itself. Anger, offense, shame, pride, and fear appear before thought has time to intervene. Jung described this as possession. An unconscious complex takes over consciousness and acts through the person. In those moments, you are not choosing. You are being chosen by an internal force you have never questioned. This is why emotionally reactive people are easy to control. Not because they are weak, but because they are predictable. Predictability is power for anyone watching closely. If someone knows what triggers you, they can move you. If they can move you, they can shape outcomes without resistance. You believe you are expressing yourself, but you are actually performing a script written by unresolved patterns. Control does not require cruelty. It requires timing. A reactive mind cannot tolerate delay. It needs immediate discharge. It must respond, explain, defend, justify, attack, or retreat. This urgency creates openings. In negotiations, arguments, relationships, and social hierarchies, the calm observer waits. The reactive person reveals their position instantly. They show their cards emotionally before strategy even begins. Jung warned that whatever remains unconscious will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Emotional reactivity is fate in motion. It feels personal, righteous, and justified. But beneath it is something older. Childhood wounds, rejected traits, unintegrated shadow material. When these elements are triggered, the adult disappears. The complex speaks, and complexes are simple. They repeat themselves endlessly. This repetition is what makes control effortless. You do not need to overpower someone who will walk into the same emotional trap every time. You simply recreate the conditions. A tone, a word, a look, silence, comparison, validation withheld, approval given selectively. The reactive mind chases relief. It seeks to restore emotional balance externally instead of regulating internally. The most dangerous illusion is believing your reactions are truth. Emotion feels real, therefore it feels right. But feeling is not seeing. Reactivity narrows perception. It collapses the field of awareness into a single point of threat or desire. In that collapse, nuance disappears. Options vanish. You cannot see the larger pattern because the nervous system is screaming for resolution. Those who understand this never need to dominate. They simply remain still while others move themselves. Calm becomes a mirror. In that mirror, the reactive person exposes motives, fears, and insecurities without being asked. Every emotional surge is information offered freely. Control thrives on information. Silence extracts more than interrogation ever could. Jung believed individuation required confronting and integrating the shadow. Until then, the shadow is projected outward. The reactive person believes others are provoking them, disrespecting them, threatening them. In reality, the external world is touching something unowned within. Projection makes you manipulable because it externalizes responsibility. If the problem is always outside, control will always come from outside. This is why emotionally reactive people crave validation and recognition. Their sense of self is unstable. It depends on emotional feedback. Praise calms them. Criticism destabilizes them. Indifference terrifies them. Anyone who controls these signals controls their behavior. Approval becomes currency. Withdrawal becomes punishment. No force is required. The quiet mind terrifies the reactive one. Calm does not provide hooks. It does not escalate. It does not rush to explain itself. Calm refuses to dance. In its presence, the reactive person feels exposed. Their tactics fail. Their emotional weapons find no target. And without reaction, there is no leverage. Control dissolves the moment awareness enters the reaction. The moment you pause, the complex loosens its grip. Space appears, choice returns. This is the beginning of freedom. Not emotional numbness, but emotional sovereignty. You feel, but you are not owned by what you feel. Chapter 1 is a warning, not an attack. If you recognize yourself here, that recognition is power. The goal is not to suppress emotion, but to stop being driven by it unconsciously. Until then, every reaction is an invitation, and someone somewhere is always willing to accept. To understand this fully, observe daily interactions. Watch how quickly emotion replaces listening. Notice how offense becomes identity, how disagreement becomes threat. The reactive mind confuses sensation with meaning. A raised eyebrow becomes rejection. A delay becomes disrespect. A boundary becomes betrayal. Each interpretation tightens the loop, and within that loop, behavior becomes automatic, almost mechanical. Those who master influence study these patterns quietly. They do not need psychology textbooks. Life teaches them. They see who explodes when challenged, who collapses when ignored, who over-explains when insecure, who attacks when ashamed. Emotional habits announce themselves. Once seen, they cannot be unseen. From that point on, control is simply patience. This is why true power feels invisible. It does not announce itself. It waits. It lets others exhaust themselves. While the reactive person burns energy reacting, the calm one conserves it. While one seeks relief, the other seeks understanding. Over time, the difference becomes structural. One lives in cycles. The other moves in direction. Jung never advocated emotional suppression. He warned against emotional blindness. Feeling without awareness is slavery. Awareness without repression is mastery. When emotion is met consciously, it transforms into insight instead of impulse. This transformation is slow, uncomfortable, and deeply humbling. But it is the price of autonomy. Until that work is done, control will always come from the outside. From people, systems, narratives, and expectations. The world will feel hostile, manipulative, unfair. And yet the door remains unlocked. It opens inward, always inward. Freedom begins when you stop reacting unconsciously. Once you understand why emotional reactivity invites control, the next question becomes unavoidable. Why do so many people remain reactive even after they've been hurt by it repeatedly? The answer is uncomfortable. Reactivity provides identity. It gives people a role to play, a story to inhabit, and a sense of meaning in an otherwise uncertain world. To lose reactivity feels like losing oneself. Emotionally reactive people are not chaotic. They are consistent. Their reactions follow familiar grooves carved by past experiences. These grooves feel safe because they are known. Anger may feel destructive, but it is familiar. Defensiveness may damage relationships, but it protects a fragile self-image. Reactivity becomes a psychological home. Leaving it feels like standing in empty space without walls. Jung observed that the ego resists anything that threatens its structure, even if that structure is painful. Emotional patterns become part of identity. This is just how I am, people say. But what they mean is, this is how I survive. Survival strategies harden into personality traits. Over time, the person forgets they were ever strategies at all. Control exploits this forgetfulness. When someone reacts emotionally, they feel alive. The surge of emotion gives intensity. Intensity feels meaningful. Calm, by contrast, feels empty at first. There is no drama, no adrenaline, no clear enemy. For many, this emptiness feels like death. So they unconsciously choose reactivity again and again, even when it costs them freedom. Another reason reactivity persists is moral disguise. Anger can feel righteous. Offense can feel principled. Emotional reactions often masquerade as values. I react because I care. I react because I have standards. I react because I'm honest. These narratives protect reactivity from examination. If emotion equals virtue, then questioning it feels like betrayal of self. Those who wish to control others understand this well. They frame triggers as moral issues. They provoke under the guise of values, fairness, or concern. The reactive person believes they are standing up for something important, when in reality, they are being steered emotionally. Control succeeds best when it feels justified. Reactivity also creates social bonding. Shared outrage unites people quickly. Collective emotion feels like belonging. When a group reacts together, individual awareness dissolves into crowd energy. Jung warned about this phenomenon repeatedly. In groups, people regress. Responsibility diffuses. Emotion amplifies. Control becomes effortless at scale. This is why emotionally charged movements spread faster than calm ideas. Emotion bypasses reflection. It shortcuts thought. Those who remain calm are often labeled indifferent, weak, or suspicious. The group needs emotional participation to maintain cohesion. Calm threatens the spell. At an individual level, emotional reactivity is often tied to unresolved childhood dynamics. The nervous system learned early that strong reactions secured attention, protection, or control. These patterns persist into adulthood, long after they are necessary. The adult body reacts as if the past is still happening. The present becomes distorted through memory. This distortion makes people easy to predict. If someone's nervous system reacts the same way to authority, rejection, or uncertainty every time, their behavior can be guided without force. All that is required is recreating the emotional context. The person believes they are responding to the present, but they are reliving the past. The reactive mind also confuses intensity with importance. Whatever triggers the strongest emotion feels most urgent. This skews priorities. Small slights overshadow long-term goals. Temporary feelings override strategic thinking. Those who can provoke emotion can redirect attention away from what truly matters. Calm people operate differently. They feel emotion, but they do not grant it immediate authority. They allow it to arise without turning it into action. This pause breaks the chain. In the pause, choice appears. Choice is lethal to control. To the reactive person, this pause looks like weakness or indifference. They cannot imagine feeling strongly without acting. But calm is not absence of feeling. It is containment. It is the capacity to hold emotion without being consumed by it. This capacity is rare because it requires inner work most avoid. There is also fear beneath reactivity. Fear of being invisible. Fear of being insignificant. Fear that without emotional expression, one will disappear. Control exploits this fear by offering attention in exchange for reaction. Anger is noticed. Calm is ignored. The reactive person chooses visibility over autonomy. Modern environments intensify this pattern. Algorithms reward outrage. Social systems amplify reaction. The more emotionally exposed you are, the more predictable you become. The more predictable you become, the easier you are to influence. Control scales effortlessly in such conditions. Breaking free requires enduring a temporary loss, less attention, less validation, less emotional intensity. This withdrawal feels like emptiness, but emptiness is not absence. It is unoccupied space. In that space, something new can form. Jung called this process withdrawal of projections. You stop assuming the world is acting upon you personally. You reclaim emotional responsibility. This is not self-blame. It is self-possession. The world loses its hooks. As reactivity fades, clarity increases. You see patterns instead of triggers. You notice timing, motives, and dynamics. People who once felt powerful now feel transparent. Their tactics become obvious. Their urgency feels artificial. Control collapses under awareness. This transition is uncomfortable because it dismantles old identities. You are no longer the angry one, the offended one, the passionate one. You are simply present. Many resist this simplicity. They return to reactivity because it feels like being someone. But true individuality emerges only after reactivity loosens. Before that, behavior is automated. After that, it is chosen. Control ends where choice begins. The price is uncertainty. The reward is sovereignty. In the next chapter, we will explore what happens socially when you stop reacting, why others resist your calm, and how quiet composure destabilizes manipulation without confrontation. When emotional reactivity fades, the world does not applaud. It resists. This is the part few people talk about. Calm does not make you universally liked. It makes you unpredictable to those who relied on your reactions. And unpredictability is deeply unsettling to people who unconsciously depend on control. The first thing you notice is tension. Not inside you, but around you. Conversations change tone. People test boundaries more aggressively. They say things designed to provoke emotion. Then watch closely. They are checking whether the old version of you still exists. This is not malicious in most cases. It is instinctive. Humans probe for leverage the way animals test strength. When the expected reaction does not arrive, discomfort follows. Silence feels like rejection. Neutrality feels like judgment. Calm feels like superiority. People begin to project meanings onto your stillness. They accuse you of being distant, cold, passive, or arrogant. These labels are not observations. They are attempts to restore the old dynamic. This is where many people fail. They explain themselves. They soften their presence. They reassure others that nothing has changed. In doing so, they give control back. Calm becomes conditional. Composure becomes performance. The power of non-reactivity collapses the moment it seeks approval. True calm does not defend itself. It does not need to. It allows misunderstanding to exist without rushing to correct it. This is one of the hardest disciplines to develop. The ego wants to be seen accurately, but the need to be understood is one of the strongest points of leverage others use. Social systems are built on emotional exchange. Reactivity fuels connection. When you step out of that exchange, the system destabilizes. Some relationships dissolve, not because of conflict, but because there is no longer a mechanism holding them together. If a bond existed primarily through shared emotion, trauma, or reaction, calm reveals its fragility. This loss can feel isolating, but it is also clarifying. What remains after reactivity fades is more honest. Relationships based on respect, shared values, or mutual growth adapt. Those based on emotional manipulation do not survive. Another shift occurs in power dynamics. People who once dominated conversations begin to hesitate. Those who relied on intimidation find no traction. Those who used guilt find no response. Calm introduces asymmetry. While others expend energy trying to move you, you remain still. Over time, this stillness becomes authority. Authority is often misunderstood. It is not loud. It does not command attention. It attracts it. People watch calm individuals more closely because they cannot read them easily. Mystery replaces predictability, and mystery commands respect more reliably than force. However, calm is often mistaken for passivity. This is dangerous. Calm without boundaries invites intrusion. Non-reactivity does not mean non-response. It means response is chosen, not triggered. When action is needed, it is precise, brief, final. This combination confuses manipulators. They expect either submission or explosion. They receive neither. Jung emphasized that individuation separates a person from collective expectations. This separation is lonely at first. The individual no longer mirrors the emotional state of the group. They no longer synchronize reactions. They become an outlier. Groups tend to punish outliers subtly. Exclusion, mockery, moral framing. These pressures are designed to pull the individual back into alignment. Remaining calm through this phase requires internal grounding. You must know why you are doing this. Without that clarity, social pressure will feel unbearable. The mind will invent reasons to return to old patterns. I was happier before. This isn't worth it. I'm becoming disconnected. These thoughts are withdrawal, symptoms from emotional dependency. As composure stabilizes, something interesting happens. Your perception sharpens. You begin to see how often people speak to manage their own emotions, rather than communicate. How questions are used to seek reassurance. How opinions are used to assert identity. How reactions are traded like currency. This awareness does not make you cynical. It makes you precise. Precision changes how you speak. You say less. You ask fewer questions. You avoid emotional hooks. Your words become intentional. This can feel unnatural at first, but it reduces friction dramatically. Conversations become shorter, cleaner, more honest. Eventually, people adjust. Some learn to meet you at your level. Others drift away. New dynamics form. You are no longer the emotional regulator for others. You are no longer responsible for their comfort. This releases enormous energy. The most profound change is internal. Without constant reaction, the mind becomes quieter. Thoughts slow down. Space opens. In that space, intuition strengthens. Decisions become clearer. You act less, but each action carries more weight. Control fails here because there is nothing to grab. Calm individuals do not escalate. They do not rush. They do not seek validation. Without these levers, manipulation starves. This does not mean life becomes conflict-free. Conflict still arises, but it is addressed directly, without emotional excess. Boundaries are stated plainly. Consequences are enforced calmly. There is no drama, no justification, just clarity. Over time, this way of being compounds. People treat you differently. Opportunities appear quietly. Respect grows without demand. Influence emerges without effort. The reactive mind believes power comes from intensity. The calm mind knows power comes from stability. One burns energy, the other stores it. This chapter marks a turning point. You are no longer asking why emotionally reactive people are easy to control. You are experiencing the answer in real time, and you are stepping beyond it. In the final chapter, we will explore the last illusion to fall, what true emotional freedom looks like, and why control permanently loses its grip once you stop needing reaction at all. There is a final illusion that must dissolve before control truly ends. It is the belief that freedom comes from managing other people's behavior. Many who reduce reactivity fall into this trap quietly. They become calmer, more aware, less impulsive, but still subtly focused on outcomes. They want others to respect them, understand them, change for them. As long as this desire remains, control has not fully released its grip. True freedom arrives when you no longer need a specific response from the world to feel stable inside yourself. This is where quiet power becomes permanent. At this stage, emotional discipline matures into emotional independence. You are no longer reacting, not because you are restraining yourself, but because there is nothing to restrain. Triggers lose their charge. Provocations feel hollow. Manipulative attempts register as noise, not threats. You notice them the way you notice weather present, but not personal. This shift changes how you experience life fundamentally. Situations that once demanded emotional labor now require almost none. You listen without bracing. You speak without calculating. You walk away without rehearsing explanations. The mind stops scanning for danger in every interaction. What disappears is not emotion, but attachment to emotional outcomes. Jung understood this as the ego relinquishing its demand for control over meaning. When the ego stops insisting that events validate or threaten identity, psychic energy returns to the self. This is not detachment in the cold sense. It is groundedness. You are no longer pulled outward for confirmation of who you are. This is why emotionally independent people feel solid. They are not rigid, but they are anchored. Their center does not move with opinion, approval, or pressure. Others feel this immediately, not consciously, but somatically. Calm nervous systems communicate safety and authority without words. At this level, control attempts become almost transparent. You see urgency as strategy. You see guilt as leverage. You see flattery as transaction. None of it offends you. None of it excites you. You simply choose whether to engage. Choice is the end of control. Most people never reach this stage because it requires letting go of emotional rewards. Reactivity provides stimulation, identity, and a sense of significance. Even suffering can feel meaningful when it reinforces a familiar story. Quiet freedom offers none of that drama. It is simple, plain, almost boring at first. But within that simplicity is strength that does not decay. You no longer rehearse conversations in your head. You no longer imagine arguments that never happen. You no longer relive emotional moments for hours. The mind becomes a tool instead of a battleground. Energy that once fueled reaction now fuels presence. Presence changes everything. When you are present, you see situations clearly. You notice timing. You sense intention. You recognize when something matters and when it does not. This discernment replaces emotional impulse. You act when action is required, and you remain still when it is not. Both are deliberate. This balance is what most people mistake for confidence. But it is deeper than confidence. Confidence still depends on belief. This depends on alignment. You are not convincing yourself of anything. You are simply not divided. As this state stabilizes, relationships reorganize naturally. You attract people who respect boundaries. You repel those who seek emotional access without responsibility. You no longer explain why you need space. You simply take it. You no longer chase clarity from others. You create it internally. Control fades because it has nothing to work with. There is no emotional hunger to exploit, no insecurity to trigger, no urgency to manipulate. You are no longer participating in the exchange. This does not make you superior. It makes you unavailable. Unavailable to drama. Unavailable to guilt. Unavailable to psychological games. And paradoxically, this unavailability makes you more effective in the world. Your words carry weight because they are rare. Your decisions matter because they are not reactive. Your presence steadies others because it is not seeking anything from them. The final transformation is subtle but decisive. You stop trying to protect yourself emotionally. Protection implies threat. You realize there is nothing to defend. Emotion passes through. Opinions pass through. Circumstances pass through. You remain. This is the end of emotional captivity. You are not numb. You are clear. You are not detached. You are rooted. You are not passive. You are precise. Control does not end because others change. It ends because you no longer offer entry points. The door was always internal. You simply closed it gently, without anger. From this place, life feels quieter but more alive. Less intense but more real. You engage with intention. You withdraw without guilt. You trust your perception. You trust your timing. And most importantly, you trust yourself. That trust is what no one can take from you. It is not given. It is not earned. It is built slowly, silently, through awareness. Once this trust is in place, control never returns. Even if you momentarily react, you recover quickly. You see it. You adjust. Awareness corrects course automatically. This is not perfection. It is resilience. And resilience, not reaction, is the final form of power. When you reach this point, the question is no longer why emotionally reactive people are easy to control. The question becomes simpler. Why would you ever give that power away again? If this resonated, don't rush to agree with it. Live with it. Watch how differently people move when you stop reacting. Notice what loses power the moment you don't feed it. Stay here if you're building a mind that can't be pulled, a presence that doesn't need permission, and a life directed from the inside out. Quiet power is not claimed. It's kept.